Hi, it's Kevin Davis, and I hope you enjoy our latest webinar. It's on the knowledge gap, where technology is evolving faster than the knowledge required for the board members and community association management to get their job done effectively. If you have any questions out there or you want to contact me, please feel free to do that. And I look forward to it, and I hope you enjoy this presentation. This is an interesting one, Sherry, because it's a topic that we've been talking about a lot in terms of cyber. But I'm realizing for the first time that what I call a knowledge gap. So what I mean by knowledge gap is that you have a group of board of directors and management companies are really unfamiliar with AI, cyber risk, technology. And today we're going to do is just talk a little about it, about the responsibilities serving on a not-for-profit board of directors and how there are liabilities concerning things like AI and cyber if you don't understand it. So I'm looking forward to this. This is going to really be an interesting topic.
Absolutely, Kevin. And when you mentioned the knowledge gap, what are you referring to there? What do you mean by that?
Well, okay, it's kind of simple. What I believe right now is technology is evolving a lot faster than the board of directors and the management company ever realized in terms of understanding, overseeing, or even managing their community associations.
hmm
For example, what we're looking at is think about it. A board of directors has three responsibilities. They have to collect assessments, right? They have to maintain the association and enforce the rules. Now, historically, the way they collect the assessments is put a check in the mail. You put a check in the lockbox, right? You
hmm
used to do that.
hmm
You lived in the Honda, you used to do it in the lockbox, okay? But
hmm
now everything's changed. Now we're
Yep.
talking about boards adapting AI stuff that they really don't understand. There's no oversight in terms of these smart buildings. Electrical vehicles are now, especially in California, where there's a lot of electrical vehicles there, they don't understand the planning of it. Surveillance systems, there's cloud-based systems, and the problem is that they are still volunteers working at a not-for-profit association, right? And again, they basically lack the knowledge, the skills necessary to do their job.
Absolutely, Kevin. And as you mentioned, people used to put a check in the mail, and now everybody's paying their bills online. I pay my HOA fee online every month, and it's automatic. And we don't even think about the fact that, is it safe? Is it secure to pay it that way? There are hackers out there, data breaches happening all the time. So,
And
that's
and and the point is this: it's convenience. We built a system of convenience, and the question is, what is the cost of that convenience?
Absolutely. I mean, is it more dangerous? Are we more vulnerable because we're doing so many things using technology every single day to take care of every financial transaction, etc.? And is it protected well enough?
And that's the point. Cyber criminals understand that. See, when cyber criminals look at things like a nonprofit, and community associations are a nonprofit, they understand that there's a lot of money involved. They have reserve account, they have operating account, there is money involved. So historically, what cyber criminals were after is money. That was the number one thing they looked for. However, today is a lot different. What they want is access. Okay.
hmm
They want to get inside your system and stay inside your system. They've created malware. Okay, malware and spyware is the perfect spyware. It's perfect malware out there that all it does is stays in your system and just watches you. They watches you through the camera. They watches you through your system. They know everything that's going on. There's another malware called Backdoor, which their job is to guess what? They just come back every time they want to come back and to see what's going on. So it's more than about money and data. They want to be able to go into your system and just create disruption if they need to. If you're
hmm
saying you want to change the rules going swimming until 10 a.m. or 10 p.m., okay, they want to go in and just fix around and change it. They want to be disruptive. They want to enhance the fraud that's happening out there. So
hmm
right now, the cyber criminals are becoming better, faster, and stronger. AI has made things so difficult for everybody to figure out how to stop that. But if you're in a board of directors meeting and your job is to enforce the rules and your job to collect assessments and your job is to maintain that association, guess what happens if you are just just slightly delayed from doing these things, all of a sudden you have a cyber fraud claim just waiting for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, Kevin, and you mentioned the smart technology, the smart buildings and the smart homes that can be hacked. A lot of people are unlocking their doors through an app now, not even using a key.
Well, you're hitting right on the main topic we're talking about. So what we did was develop five key areas, okay? Five key areas that we think growing knowledge. And you mentioned one of them was those smart buildings. Another one is called technological dependency, social fraud engineering, which we've been talking about for a long time, data privacy, and vendor integrationist. So when we talk about that gap in knowledge, because again, you still have volunteer board members who have to make business decisions. They have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure they make the accurate decisions. It's no longer about just enforcing the rules, collecting assessments. It's now about maintaining that eco-structure in terms of all these things here we're talking about and all things we're
hmm
talking about today. So the
hmm
board's responsibility has shifted tremendously.
Dramatic shifting. And if they're not IT experts and not up to date on the latest technology, it's a good idea to get some training to understand how they can protect their association, at least be more aware of how crimes could happen and cyber fraud could occur.
Okay, so let's talk about the first one there. The first one, and this is our first concern, and it's a major concern, is one thing that Chair we've been talking about for probably about 10 years now.
hmm
Social engineering fraud. And social engineering fraud is pretty simple, and that is they're pretending to be somebody or not. As simple
hmm
as that. They're pretending to be somebody or not. And as a result of that, it creates these major problems. And today creates a bigger problem because of AI. Because AI generate these emails. They use the voices, they use the grammar, they use the way that we talk, they understand it, and they use these personalized messages, and they send them out in droves. You know,
hmm
I don't know how often do I get these emails that say, "Guess what? Your Netflix account needs to be updated, or your
Right.
UPS needs to be changed, or you needed a
hmm
time to call us immediately for these things." I mean,
hmm
it's created a problem. It's created such a big problem because, again, if you live in a community association and you work with a management company, too often that the communication goes back and forth and is not verified enough.
hmm Absolutely, Kevin. And I'd mentioned in a prior webinar that we did, there was an association, actually a property management company in Oklahoma, who managed HOAs, not condo associations. But hackers stole $3 million they were text messaging the owner of the property management company, and ended up going into their accounts and basically stealing $3 million. So text messages as well. And they're, like you said, they're going through people to get this.
And that's the important thing. And I tell you, the perfect example, and this is an example here on a slide, but the number one that we've always get, and from the day one, the first one was about the landscaper. Landscaper gets hacked, sends out an email to all the clients. The hacker does send an email to all the clients and say, guess what? To avoid paying late fees, please pay immediately. Here's my new bank and my new routing number. Okay, so anytime you hear those words, new bank and new routing number, be aware because we don't usually change banks. Once we start our bank, we kind
Right,
of sit there for
right.
a very, very long time.
hmm
It doesn't mean we don't, but you have to be aware of that. And that's the key of social engineering. They want to trick you into
Right,
giving out passwords, giving out ID. It's the easiest way to get information is use social engineering fraud. I mean,
right.
it's easy for me to walk up to your association there, Sherry, and say, "Hey, guess what? I'm the pizza delivery guy, or the UPS person, or Amazon person, just dropping some stuff off. Can you let me in?"
hmm
Versus person standing there and pushing all the buttons, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and try to break my way in. That is
hmm
the problem with social engineering. It's easy to get into community associations, easy to get into anywhere, into any system, versus
hmm
any other way.
Right. They can make emails that look legitimate, Kevin, like it's from the landscaping
Yeah.
company.
Mhm.
The text messages can look legitimate. The hackers really have gotten more sophisticated and more clever in the ways that they're hacking, and that they're they're tricking people, basically tricking them into thinking it's a legitimate vendor that's
And,
contacting them.
and the best way to avoid it is one thing you can do is just call up and verify that it's the amount. That's all you have to do is call up and verify. Now, don't call up and verify the number on the email that's being sent. Call up. And I remember the first time it happened to me when I went on a cyber um, seminar. I did a cyber seminar in Hawaii. I put it on LinkedIn that I'm about to attend this cyber seminar. I'm about to give a cyber seminar. By the time I got there, our controlling office called up and said, "How many gift cards did you want?" I said, "I never
Hmm.
ordered any gift cards." So again,
Hmm.
somebody pretended to be me to get access to those gift cards.
Well, yeah, and that's you're putting it on social media. Little did you realize just putting something on social media, they think they can, okay, he's out of town, and I think Doug called you. Didn't Doug let you know
Yeah,
that?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. That's right.
Yeah.
It was him. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. It's just, they're following, you don't realize when you're putting stuff out there, you know what I mean, on the internet and social media or in different locations that people are paying attention. And these criminals, they're working 24/7 to basically, get people's email
Yep.
addresses and clone them and that kind of a thing. And they're just getting very, very sophisticated. So the protection is really important because, the associations are the caretakers of lots of money. The property management company is handling all the financial transactions. So, it's something to really be aware of. I mean, it's a business. It's a
Yeah.
business that has to be protected.
And again, it's gotten to a point where because of AI has made it that much more challenging for us. That's for sure.
Hmm. Hmm.
So let's go to that
Absolutely.
next area, technology dependency. Now, what does that mean? This is how I'm gonna explain this. When I leave work, okay, I go to my car. I leave the office building downtown LA, I go to my car. And as I go to my car, guess what? My phone automatically unlocks the door
Hmm.
and put the mirrors in, and I start the car. Don't need a key. Okay. So I
Hmm.
start driving home. I get close to home and I realize it's 90 degrees outside. So I'm going to turn my air conditioning unit on. So by the time I get to the house, it'll be cooled down a lot. So I drop that air conditioning unit to 75. So now I'm coming home. So as I get closer to my house, right, I pull into my driveway. There's the little ring thing there, right? The ring thing with the camera inside there,
Hmm.
just to let my wife know. Guess what? Because she is out. Guess what? Somebody's coming in the house and she knows it's me. I'm coming inside the house.
Hmm.
Open up my garage, park the car, push another button, the door unlocks. I come inside the house, I check my mail, not the mail that comes in the mailbox, but mail on my computer, you know,
Hmm. Hmm.
um, watch TV and whatever else I do. So I'm totally dependent on technology from the time I get up in the morning to the time I come home every single day. Now,
Hmm.
take that times 100 units out there and see what kind of
Hmm.
problem you have, you know?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and
Mhm.
my HOAs, they built smart homes, so everybody has the app on their phone where they can unlock their front door, lock their
Yeah.
front door, turn, like you said, turn the air
Yeah.
conditioning on and off. But what if
Mhm.
somebody hacked that app,
Yeah.
and they
Or,
unlocked your
again,
door?
I mean, to me, there's two issues you have to be concerned about. Again, because of our lack of knowledge, we depend on that. Let's say all of a
Hmm.
sudden my ring doesn't work, okay? Or
Hmm.
the heating doesn't work, or the lock
Right.
doesn't
Or
work,
the car, or your car doesn't open. Your
or a
car
car
doesn't
doesn't
open.
open. So guess what? My wife is upset with me. That's about the extent of it, right? Nobody else is
Hmm.
upset with my wife. But if you live in a 100-unit community association, okay,
Hmm.
all of a sudden you have 100 people who are upset with you, okay,
Hmm.
and you don't know what to do. Right now, I turned my lights on when I came into this room. I have no idea how it comes on. If I'm clicking that switch, it doesn't come on anymore. I have no idea what to do next.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that's the problem we talk about dependency right there. We depend on that technology so much that we don't have a backup plan, that we really
Right.
don't understand what to do next.
If
It's like,
it stops working, or if it gets hacked and all of a sudden there's a huge problem, and like you said, a board member, it's 100 units in that condo complex or 100 homes, and all of a sudden they're all hacked, or the association is hacked.
yeah.
What do you
And,
do?
and, and in fact, that is a perfect example that we gave is as a ransomware incident. See, all of a
Hmm.
sudden you have this association. that shuts down all the locks, locks everything up, and you can't get in. Now, this is the
Mm-hmm.
problem when you have this kind of technology in community associations versus any other corporation. Any other corporation, you would have a different server for your technology than you do have for your day-to-day operation. So your
Mm-hmm.
finance is not connected to your front door. But in community associations, most of them are. Mostly you have one server that
Mm-hmm.
controls everything. So what happens is if you lock your system down, you want to get into that system and lock everything down for ransomware, it locks everything down. And now all
Mm-hmm.
of a sudden you have to pay that ransom of whatever many bitcoins you do. So it understands that when you're talking about this dependency, again, we said it before, it's all about convenience. That all the things I talked about from the moment I get into my car to here is convenience. And what is the cost of convenience?
Right. Right. It can be, yeah, if they get hacked or there's a breach or everything gets shut down or locked or like you said, ransomware where they take control of the system and then everything's frozen. You can't open the clubhouse, the gym, the door at the clubhouse, or the computers at the association are taken over, and all the homeowners' information, their addresses, their social security numbers, because you're taking personal information and storing it in the computer system. If that's taken over, it's a huge problem, a huge
And
problem.
it's your job, that the board member's job, to understand that and to do something about it. They have to
Hmm.
understand those critical systems. They have to
Hmm.
have manual backup. You know,
Right.
it's
Right.
like, it's funny because when I flew in one time in LAX, I'm at the airport, right? And the escalators weren't working. And people stay at the escalators and like,
Didn't know
what do
what
I
to
do
do.
now? Yeah,
They didn't want to know what to do.
yeah. It's like, well, walk down the stairs, but we're
Yeah.
so dependent on technology that we end
Right.
up standing there like with that deer in the
Frozen.
headlight look, that what do we
Right.
do now? Yeah. Mhm.
Right. 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 Can you imagine if your phone all of a sudden just didn't work. You know what I mean? Like, yeah,
Mhm.
your computer just completely stopped working. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. Like a deer in the headlights. It's like a deer in the headlights. So you have to have that plan B or that backup, that
Mhm.
security. They have to think about if our great high-tech system, which works fantastic when it's working, if it stops working or it's hacked or there's a breach, what do you do?
Yeah. And again, there are claims and lawsuits against you either way, meaning
Mm-hmm.
that if I'm hacked or if I'm just incompetent or if I don't understand, it's
Mm-hmm.
the same thing. I
Yeah.
still breach my fiduciary duty because I didn't understand, how to supervise correctly, or I failed to monitor the system.
Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, the board members really they have to know much more than they had to know 5 years ago or 10 years
Yeah.
ago. I mean, there's just so much that they have to know, or they can bring in experts from the outside to help them manage it and control it, and make sure that they're covered in that sense if they don't have the background, you know what I mean, to manage it
Mhm.
all.
Mhm. Yeah, it's the interconnectedness that's happening that they never had to worry about before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
let's go on to smart buildings and IoT vulnerabilities.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And guess what? We just talked about smart buildings. Smart buildings is what we just talked about. Now,
Mm-hmm.
when I talk about the word IoT, it's called the Internet of Things. Have you heard of that before, Sherry?
I've heard of it. Yeah, not too often. I haven't heard too many people say it, but I have heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Internet of Things is what a smart building is. In other words, you're combining the internet itself with things. Okay?
Things. Mm-hmm.
With things like the front door, the locks, the electricity,
Mm-hmm.
the heat, my
Air
car. So that's
conditioning.
that's things. And what it
Mm-hmm.
does when the internet gives, direction to the things that say this is what I want you to do. And the
Mm-hmm.
internet and it collects the data. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are three problems with the Internet of Things that nobody is talking about. So all the things I talked about earlier in terms of our connection to the elevators and everything else that we're talking about, the
Mm-hmm.
air conditioning, heating unit, is that there are three problems with it. The first problem, there's no updates on the system. So like
Mm-hmm.
right now, guess what? I get on my phone, I get updates all the time.
Me too.
Okay.
Yeah.
You get,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but guess what? for the elevators, for the locks, for the, air conditioning, all those things, they don't get updated. So
Yeah,
by not getting updated, guess what happens? It's easier to get access to that, easier to get access to inside. And
it's
a
not as
lot of the
secure.
times, the thefts that happen is because of that one reason. It's because they
Hmm.
got inside the things and they're able to get through and create ransomware demands. It's the things that gets them to trouble.
Hmm.
All right,
Yeah,
so
they
that's
have.
number one. Number
Hmm.
one is there's no updates. Number two is that when you install these things, a lot of times they had the original factory setting. Okay. And guess what? The people out there, the criminals, the hackers, they know the original factory settings.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
if you don't change them, you don't update them, you don't put new passwords in there other than welcome 123 or whatever, guess what? They have access to the things. Again,
Hmm.
we focus all our energy on the internet part of it, but the things get missed, and all of a sudden now you go through the things and create problems.
Hmm. And Kevin, that brings something to mind when you just mentioned password too. There's a lot of turnover with board members. So when one board member leaves, are they changing the passwords? You know what I mean? With new board members coming in. So, and or the board member might have the password and they're no longer a board member and have access and that kind of a thing. So that's also an issue as well.
But again, it goes back to the original settings. If nothing gets changed, then nothing gets changed, and everything
Hmm.
stays the same. Which
Hmm.
brings up the third reason, and that is the privacy settings that are on all these systems, including your system, everything we use. In the Internet of Things, okay, you got the internet and the things that collects the data, and that data is there. Now,
Hmm.
if you don't update your privacy settings, guess what happened to all that data? We don't know.
That's right. You don't know.
You don't know, you
Hmm.
know?
Hmm.
So when you talk about the Internet of Things there, you have to be concerned. Again, as board members who serve on community association boards and managers, and everybody who's listening here today, you know, we use the internet for so many things now. We're going to use them more now we ever used before. Okay. And our Wi-Fi settings, everything that we have, everything we do, if we don't change them, hackers get it. They understand it. Our routers, everything that we use, if we don't go in and change the privacy setting, then they have access to it. They can get it. They understand it more than we do. Um, so be careful on the Internet of Things. It's something that will get bigger and bigger and bigger. But if you have a basic understanding of it, you'll make sure that hackers will stay out of it, and all these challenges that we said earlier here, that's sitting here, you will avoid them at all costs.
Hmm. Absolutely.
So again, require you got vendor security standards, limit remote access permission. These are all the things you can do to limit these kind of situations here. Because what happens is that once in a while, without that information, if not done right, and because somebody can get access in there, you're talking about somebody getting that unauthorized access to the system. And again, what they want is this access right now. Because once they get in there, they can figure out what to do next. They can hold it for ransom. They can just sit there and wait. They can go after your bank accounts. They can go after your reserve accounts. They can go after anything they want to, but they have the ability to sit there and do something. You can wait, and you may not even know they're even there.
Hmm. That's a sad thing. You wouldn't even know they're there. Absolutely. Yeah, they can steal the data and sell the data. They can do so many different things once they're in there.
Yeah.
Once they're in there. So it's so important to protect any system, like you said. And it's becoming more and more involved and more complicated for
Yeah.
board members.
Mhm.
Much more
Mhm.
complicated.
Yeah. Now,
Hmm.
data privacy and surveillance liability. This is one of those ones that is very important because it's changed. Data privacy has always been there, meaning that the board's responsibility is to protect personal identifiable information. That is your name plus a driver's license, your name plus social security number, your name plus, any account number. So you're supposed to protect that. Now, the problem is you got biometrics are involved, facial
Hmm. Face
recognition,
recognition. Yeah.
facial recognition.
Hmm.
And if you don't handle that information correctly, now you're talking about a major lawsuit against you as a board of directors. Right now, on pure data breach alone, okay, there's certain requirements by law you have to do if you have a data breach. You have to notify all the individuals. You have the call centers. You have all those different things. But when you talk about biometrics, it's a little bit different because have you have permission? Are you collecting and storing and sharing that information? You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, what's again, it goes back to your privacy settings. If you don't know what you're doing, the likelihood of you being sued is a lot greater.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you
Absolutely.
go to this example, okay, and this is one of our actual claims, is that there is a biometric information act, okay, that actually in Illinois is that you can't install and store this kind of information. So you need to talk to lawyers before you start using biometrics. You got to
Mm-hmm.
understand it. You can't just set a camera up there and have facial recognition with everybody in store without really letting everybody know what you're doing, and you have the right to do it.
That's the first thing that came to mind, Kevin. I thought before you install a system like this where you're requiring people to use their faces as facial recognition to enter something, you definitely have to speak to an attorney, to get legal feedback on the state laws, the federal laws, that kind of a thing, to make sure you're not violating any laws and you're getting if you need to get permission to do this, that kind of a thing.
Yep. And that's why when you go to the airport, they say they don't store it, they don't collect it. It's that this is it,
Right,
and
right.
yeah. And they're doing it, said this is the there, we can't store, we don't collect it. They notify you right off the bat that that's what they're doing.
hmm Yeah. At the airport, it's really funny because the hologram on my driver's license is close to my picture. It never
Mm.
can read my face. I thought I have to do it like 4 times. I'm like, it's really me. It's really me.
Okay, let's go to number five. Number five,
Mhm.
if I say vendor and integration risk. This is the tricky one because right now we're integrating all of our vendors that we have in community associations. We're talking about the finance people. That's all the people you pay the bills to, all your people do your budgets and things. You're talking about your contractors, okay? Your landscapers, your roofers, your contractors, your security people, your maintenance people, your insurance
Mhm.
professionals, your reserve study specialists. You're not picking up the phone and calling everybody. They work with you online,
Right, right.
okay?
Yeah, people don't call anymore. Hardly, it's very rare to get a phone call.
Mhm.
It's
And
mostly
it's
emails and
all that information is in the cloud. Now,
right,
here's the problem with this vendor thing, and it's really important, is that first of all, we trust all our vendors. We think they're all doing a great job. They're all wonderful people. They all have the best security, you know. But here's the problem. You got who's going to accept responsibility for that loss? If you're
right.
so fully integrated where that landscaper got hacked, not the management company, the landscaper got hacked, and all of a sudden you lost your reserve account or you lost 10,000 in your operating account. Who do you blame? Who takes
Right,
responsibility for it?
right.
What does the contract say?
hmm Yeah, the thing
Because
is,
right now the
Kevin,
problem is
you
there's
don't
probably no contract.
hmm you don't know what level of security, cybersecurity that Landscaper has. Do they have they invested in high level security? You just don't know when you've got these third parties.
But one thing you do know is that no, one thing you do think is that they will take responsibility for whatever happens,
Right, right,
you know? In your back of your mind, you're saying, well, guess what? The management company loses my data. Somebody takes my data or takes um, my checks, then they're responsible. And they may be responsible. They may say, guess what? We're responsible. We did it and we will reimburse you. We'll take care of you. But the odds
hmm
are is that they may not. They may say, guess what? It wasn't us. It wasn't our management company because we have 30 other buildings and nobody else was hacked but you. So it must have been somebody else. It could have been somebody internally.
hmm Yeah. And Kevin, this brings to mind another claim that I recently saw, an $18 million loss for it was in New York City, Battery Park City condos. The condo board is suing the management company The management company was a victim of cyber fraud. So 18 million.
Yeah, yeah. And again, who is responsible for that? And that's the
Mm-hmm.
key thing. It's hard to identify that person responsible unless they say, guess what? We did it. It's our fault. We'll do all the things that was required by law.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of gray areas. There's a lot of, yeah.
It's challenging because, again, nobody knows. Right now, we're in an area here that we're taught, set up from day one. There is a knowledge gap here between what we should know and what the reality is. And right now, today, we have one job to point them out to you. We don't know, we don't have all the answers, but we do know a lot of the questions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Lots of questions, lots and lots of questions. And speaking of questions, Kevin, if
Yes.
anybody has any questions about what we're going over today, I just wanted to mention one more time, please type your questions into the Q&A box and we'll answer them at the end.
Mhm. Okay, so here's the three questions that every
Great.
board should know. This is it. This is the most important part of it. So, where could money be redirected without detection? Okay. Now, what does that really mean? It means that I have a fiduciary responsibility to protect that money. So I have to take what I do seriously enough to say, okay, I don't want anybody to come in and redirect my funds. I don't want to be tricked. I don't want anybody to be hacking me. I don't want anything to happen. So what safeguards I'm going to develop to make sure this doesn't happen? So number one, we got to do is just to make sure that we understand that we have a responsibility to protect the data, protect the money, protect our systems. So where could money be redirected? You're sitting there saying that these are my issues, my concerns in terms of my reserve account and my operating account, because this is what people want out of our system. So we're going to protect it. What kind of oversight do we have? What are we doing to protect that?
Mhm.
Number two, what happens if our system go down? What are we going to do? Again, now this goes back to what we said before. What happens if my little ring bell doesn't work or my door doesn't lock? What are we going to do? What kind of backup do we have? What's our plan B? Again,
Mm-hmm.
we're taking our fiduciary responsibility seriously. Because when we get
Mm-hmm.
dragged into court, the first question we ask, do you have a plan? Do you take
Mm-hmm.
this responsibility seriously?
Mm-hmm.
And answering three questions says yes. And the third question is, who is responsible for our data if it's compromised? Who is responsible for that data?
Mm-hmm.
And I would say right off the bat is that we, the board, is responsible until somebody says we're not. Because guess what? It's our data. We said to our unit owners, give it to management company, give it to landscaper, give it to the roofer, give it to our website designer, whoever it is. I say, who is responsible? The board should take that responsibility right on. And then they can figure out later how to handle it. So
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
it's tough.
Yeah.
It's a challenging situation.
It's very challenging because you're sharing the data, like you said, with the property management company and with the vendors. And, multiple people are touching the data. So at the end of the day, who is ultimately responsible if there's a hack or a breach? It can
A-
be very convoluted.
And again, it's so interconnected that
Mhm.
it's going to be challenging to figure out who's responsible other than, guess what, that board of directors of the condo. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are probably going to be named in that lawsuit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they probably are. They
Mhm.
probably are. And, yeah, probably more than one, like the association, maybe the board members, property manager. I mean, it could be affecting a lot of people, and you never know how it's going to turn out. Everybody could be liable in the end.
Yeah. So here's the key thing. The key thing, and I'm taking a couple minutes to talk about cyber because I did cyber insurance because I put this in last night because I wasn't really going to talk about cyber insurance. I wanted to talk about the lack of knowledge. But I
Hmm.
think at the end of the day, that if we talk about, these lack of knowledge, it results in claims. We need to talk about is there coverage to protect them for these claims. We kind of divide up into four areas, the insurance coverage. Number one is cyber liability. This is when they get sued. The board is sued because they failure to do something. They failure to supervise. They failure to have the knowledge. They failure to follow the manual. They fail to get the information. They fail to have the knowledge. Anytime that board is sued for a failure to, now you're talking about cyber liability coverage. That is a critical piece. Number two, cyber first party coverage. This is your forensic investigation, your breach response team, your notification calls, your credit monitoring. These are the things that are required by law. So every state has a law that if you have a data breach, what do you do? These are the things you do. The next one is cyber extortion coverage. Okay. When they come in and lock your system down and you need, 1,000 Bitcoins, guess what? This policy picks up the 1,000 Bitcoins. You have to have crime insurance coverage. Computer crime. Somebody actually walks in your office, pretends to be, the UPS person, and either tricks you into giving you information, or you're going to go there and just put every single password you can until you get into that system. They put welcome 123. They put their birthday. They put everything in there. They hack it. That is a computer crime. That funds transfer crime happens where I'm at the airport. And Sherry, guess what? You're the president of the association. And all of a sudden you say, Kevin, I still have not got that money you said you're going to give me. Okay.
Hmm.
And all of a sudden I say, fine, Sherry, I'll send it to you right now. I'm going to the open Wi-Fi at the airport. As soon as I do that, you see all these other connections in there. They all have access to it. Everybody has
Hmm.
access to it. And somebody's in there waiting for me to take money from me to send it to you and stop it midstream. That's funds transfer. Meaning
Hmm.
that don't ever use Wi-Fi, public Wi-Fi, because they know what you're doing. There's always somebody there. And then social
Hmm.
engineering is what you talked about before. So when you talk about coverage, these are the main things, including having a breach coach, a cybersecurity experts, crisis management professionals who are going to, at the end of the day, help you. If you believe there's a loss, I believe a situation that you should be concerned about. Now, I hope you enjoyed our latest presentation on the knowledge gap. I hope you get some ideas of how important it is that board members of community associations and the management company understand these exposures and learn how to deal with them effectively. So thanks a lot, and we'll see you again soon.